How can I prevent the consequences of their destructive actions? Healthy attachment says, it's not my job to do the work for them. It's my role to decide if this is a relationship I can stay in and still feel connected. If they didn't change, would you still feel good in this relationship? Because it's not your job to change them. They have to decide to change and put in the work. Remember, it takes two people putting in the work for this to work. If they have no interest in that, you will not experience closeness and connection with this person. The reason we want to save them from the consequences of their own actions is because we feel like we're the only ones that are going to be affected, right? They might be avoidantly attached. That means that if you broke up because you didn't save the fight, you didn't apologize first, you didn't keep the peace, you didn't solve the issue, right? When you break up, it's you that's going to feel the pain and not them, because they can compartmentalize. They can numb. They'll move on. That's what our fear is. It's us that's going to suffer. That's why you work so hard to save this dynamic, because you feel like you're the only one that's going to hurt when it's gone. And that's not a partnership. In a true partnership, you both care about your connection together and your bond together, and you're both interested in prioritizing and maintaining it. That brings us to the fifth way that I let my anxious attachment sabotage my love life, which is staying in relationships far too long when I knew I wasn't happy. That's the problem. I was so scared of being abandoned. I was so scared of being alone. I wanted to be chosen. I wanted to be liked. But I never asked the question, do I even like them? Do they make me feel better about myself? Do I feel safe to be honest with them? Can I show up authentically? Am I actually happy? I remember knowing I would never marry this person, but I stayed for months after that because the hell I knew was better than the hell I didn't, and I was too scared of feeling alone. And I would let my thoughts go to, well, what if they get with someone else and then they treat them right? But you know what I never thought? What if I'm actually happier without them? What if I enjoy being alone and not feeling neglected and miserable all the time? What if I actually meet someone who treats me better, right? I mean, why did I overanalyze and catastrophize everything in the negative lens? I mean, it's my job during healing to recognize those thoughts and patterns and turn them positive, because you'll never feel more alone than in a toxic or unhealthy relationship. And nobody knows when you should end your relationship specifically. All I can tell you is you can't experience closeness and connection with someone who has no interest or ability in healthy communication. We have to actually want to know each other's inner world, right? We should want to know what's going on in their heart. That doesn't give them license to share it in a disrespectful or hurtful way. But we should want to keep short accounts in our relationship, right? If someone is hurt or has a desire to be loved in a different way, that's information we should want to know. And it's really easy to blame everyone else. They were avoiding. They were a narcissist. They tricked me, right? They would bait me into fights. It's really hard to accept accountability in a healthy way and build my self-esteem at the same time. But that's what we have to do. I had to take personal accountability that I would stay in the fight long after they would lie, or accuse, or yell, or call me names, right? I didn't abide by any of my own boundaries. Why would I stay in a fight where someone clearly had no interest in my perspective? The reason I kept fighting was because I was fighting to be seen as valuable by them. I was fighting to be seen as worthy of kindness and respect. But that's an inside job, right? I was outsourcing that to them. So I would take the bait when they would accuse or lie or yell, but I had to take accountability for the fact that I stayed in that fight, because it takes two to fight, right? You can walk away at any moment. And a toxic person is going to say that you're abandoning the discussion, right? They'll say you're being immature or you're giving them the silent treatment. They're never going to take responsibility for the fact that they escalated this discussion with name-calling or contempt. It's your job to know that you're playing a game you can't win. So here's what I want you to do. I know I've hit you with a lot of information today. I want you to get more connected with your feelings. I feel like you're being a jerk isn't a feeling. I feel lonely. I feel ignored. Those are feelings. I want you to get more connected to your needs. I need a little bit more reassurance that everything is okay. That's fine to say. It's okay to communicate that. But I also need you to not let your mind wander and read into things that aren't there. It's okay to communicate vulnerably when you feel like something's off. It's not okay not to trust their response if they tell you everything is fine with them, because then that means you don't trust them. Figure out how to either trust them or leave that relationship, because if you don't have trust, you don't have anything. Get more connected to how you feel most loved. You can't show up as your authentic self if you don't know who that is. You deserve to be loved too. So learn about what that looks like for you and feels like for you, and start being courageous and sharing that. Next, we got to work on our people pleasing. We got to work on not feeling guilty just because you can't go to lunch with them or help them move, right? Or that when someone serves us, we need to immediately return the favor, right? Learn how to give from a place of kindness and abundance, rather than obligation, or continuing to pour from an empty cup. Work on saying no. Work on saying, I need to think about that. Give me some time on that. Instead of just yes, work on being more vulnerable and talking about what you're feeling and what you are needing to feel good in that moment, even if it's in the past, because the right people are not going to punish you for doing that. Work on not over-apologizing. And also work on taking accountability for the unhealthy ways that you've shown up in the past. That sounds like, hey, I realize now that my excessive need for reassurance was due to my own fears, and I placed that on you, and I would get upset with you. But that was a me problem, and I just want to say I'm sorry, and I'm working on it. Instead of accommodating, work on practicing actually figuring out what you would want. Even if it's just something simple like picking a movie or a restaurant, it's still really important that we can say, I would really love to do blank tonight. And lastly, trust your gut. If something's off, something's off. I'm not saying invalidate your feelings or stay in relationships that don't feel right. You are not being too needy because you need someone to be consistent and kind and respectful and empathetic. Those are 100% valid needs. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. At the end of the day, just know that we're all in this together, right? We all grew up with difficult childhoods in one way or another, and we're all learning about our own fears and insecurities and needs. So give yourself grace and compassion. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.